Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Daily Dose. I just want to share a story with you today from Daniel. As I was studying Daniel and the Lion's Den this morning, some things really popped out at me, and they were really good reminders, and I just want to share those with you. And so our story starts out with King Darius. He appointed 3 men. One of those men was Daniel, who was distinguished above all other high officials because he had an excellent spirit. He had integrity, and he was obedient to God. Daniel would pray 3 times a day at his window in his house. And the 2 other men that were appointed with Daniel didn't like Daniel at all. And so they tried to find fault in Daniel, and they couldn't. It says right here, then the high officials and the satraps sought to find ground for complaint against Daniel with regard to the kingdom, but they could find no ground for complaint or any fault. I made me think of Philippians 2:14 through 15, and this is what it says. It says, do everything without grumbling or arguing, so that you may become blameless and pure, children of God, without fault in a warped and crooked generation. He did nothing wrong. They couldn't find anything wrong with what he was doing. And that is just an excellent example of how, as a Christ followers, we need to be striving for excellence and do everything as if people were watching us. And that's what Daniel was doing. And so they couldn't find anything wrong with Daniel. And this is one thing I love. In verse 5 of chapter 6, it says, then these men said, we shall find no fault in any ground for complaint against this Daniel, unless we find it in his connection with the law of his God. He's so faithful that they're going to get him in trouble with his God and how he was so obedient to God. And so as we know the story goes, the 2 men have King Darius sign a document basically saying that you can't be praying to any other gods, you need to be bowing down to King Darius. But we know that Daniel, who prays 3 times a day, wouldn't stop that because he's faithful. And that's another thing that really stood out to me, is that Daniel prayed 3 times a day. He had a designated time that he would pray, and then he would go to his window. That was his place that he would pray. So he had a designated time, a designated location, and then he had a designated purpose. He'd pray every single day, just thanking God for the things that he had. And how that's such an example for us, and how sometimes I forget how important prayer is. I always teach my kids about prayer that it's like a relationship, and relationship with my wife would not be very good if I never talked to her. That's just like a relationship with God. We need to be talking to him, and so that was just a great reminder for me to remember that how important that is. And Daniel, as we know the story goes, he keeps praying, and he gets caught, of course, by the 2 guys, and he gets thrown into the lion's den. And so this is where Daniel's faith is tested. I mean, I would be terrified if I was thrown into a lion's den. And so Daniel proposed this in his heart to honor God, regardless if he would survive or not. It was important that he's obedient through everything. And so, I mean, Paul was assaulted, Peter was arrested, James was executed, and Jesus was crucified. All these people they suffered for their faith, and just like Daniel did. But despite that, he came out and he was able to survive, and the whole kingdom's religion was changed, and the King Darius' hearts was changed, and they all decided to follow God and honor him and love him. And so I just want to hopefully encourage you guys this morning to think about that and how powerful prayer can be, and being and have integrity, and just being faithful and obedient. And so as we go this week, I just encourage you guys to find a designated time and a location and a purpose just to pray and thank God for the things that he's given you and how he's taking care of you. I hope you guys have a blessed day. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks.